Hello, hi, I'm Siona from Honouring ME Crochet, and this is my first ever Facebook Live. I'm hoping that some of you will come and join me tonight, but if you can't, that's fine. The recording will be in the group later. I thought I'd start by introducing myself, show you my face before I show you what we'll be working on. This is me. So tonight I'm going to work on my Forever EILEEN pattern. For those of you that have been following me for a while, you know that this is one that my granny used to make. And I started crochet to honour her essentially, and from that my business and my passion for crochet and yarn and teaching others has come with it. So yeah, so this is the first of many to come, I hope. So if you do pop on, please put a like or a love or just something to say hello, add a comment. But for now, I'm going to turn the camera around and show you how to do Forever EILEEN. If I can work out how. So this is where I'm at so far. Lucky I checked my counter. I'm actually at the start of a repeat, so that's a nice place to start. Put a bit more light on there. So once you get started and you've got your first lot of repeats in there, it's quite easy you don't have to count, as long as you counted right the first time. Hi Jill, thank you. So good to see someone's turned up. So I always begin, so at the start of each round, for a row I should say for this one, there's a little chain one, so you'll see that sticking there at the end, so you don't need to count that, but that works nicely for when we do the border at the very end. So I always connect first by putting my hook through the top two of that first stitch, the two V's there, and you'll have to excuse any fumbling I have while I start. And I always begin by just doing a chain one, and there, because we're at the start of a repeat, we're going to work 3 before we do the first drop treble. So this one, very simple, it's all single crochet working into the back loop. Unfortunately I've got a dark row, so it's going to be a little bit hard, but you just work into that one back loop. And as my granny used to do, try and crochet in the ends as I go. The ones at the other end, I do sew them in. I did try crocheting them in, but I found my first one I kept losing stitches doing that, so I learnt not to. So essentially we're just working single crochet into the back loop only. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. We do 3. Split the yarn, and then we work the drop treble. So for the drop treble you're going to yarn over twice, and then you can see on this one thank you Jill, it might not share because we're in the group, but that's okay, but I'll share it to other places after. So if you're not sure which one, so you go down 3 rows below essentially, but you can see on the navy I went into the grey, so this one I'm going to be working into the white. So I'm going to start just by, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, just make sure you get it even there as well. My daughter's come home. And I always start just by essentially just locking it in with one, and then work through 2 loops at a time until you've got the drop treble. It looks a bit messy, and then you're going to skip the one that's in front of, and then just work into the back loop of the next 12. 1, 2. You find you don't really need to count these ones, as when you get to the drop treble you'll have done 12. You can see I'm keeping that yarn at the back there as well, so I can crochet in and it's just less ends to sew in later, because that's I don't know about you, but I don't like doing that, even though it does look neater. So you can see we've got the drop treble, then we got our 12, okay, and then so I'm at the back of the drop treble, so I'm going to yarn over twice again, going to work into that white one right next to it, just loop it in and then work the stitch, 2, 2, 2. It'll kind of pull up, but you'll see it settles afterwards. So again, skip the one that's behind that and then just work another 12, and you're essentially just doing that all the way across. And my granny made lots and lots of these blankets. Unfortunately, doing them live, you've got to watch all the boring bits. When I tape things, I can cut out the boring bits. So there's not much to this pattern, which is how I like to work all my patterns. I don't like to think while I'm crocheting. I don't like to count too high, especially because I'm usually watching TV at the same time. Again, drop treble into the white one. Yarn over. Treble is probably one of my least favourite stitches because it always looks loose, but there's not many in this. Now, of course, I'm using US terms, so if you want to use UK terms, you're working a double crochet into the back loop, and then it's a drop double treble, triple treble, sorry, no, double treble. I speak two languages. Okay, again. Now the pattern, like most of mine as well, or pretty much all of them, I give instructions for how to make it bigger or smaller, so if you don't want to embark on a big blanket to start with, like my granny made them in all sorts of sizes. I was fortunate to be one of her only grandchildren that gave her great-grandchildren while she was alive, so I have lots of these blankets. I've got them in pram size, cot size. Whatever size she felt like. And again, I'm using Knit Picks. Which one is it? Comfy Sport. But you can use any yarn. I'm using a 4mm hook. Granny's all seem to be, she used acrylic yarn usually. Living in the country way back then, had less access to yarn, not like us nowadays with online access to anything and everything. Bring that back a bit. I'll at least work to the end of the row. Now the original pattern for this was Granny modified. It was from Jacob's Ladder, which is also very similar to the Apache Tears. Apache Tears I think works on and Jacob's Ladder, they work on a different number of gaps depending on how many coloured yarns you're using. So from that I did practice once when I was trying to, before I found her, what the pattern she based it on. So if you had 4, I think 4 yarns, you'd leave a gap of 4 and then work your drop and they were only, and the Jacob's ladder as well was only, oops, what am I doing? It was a drop double crochet in US terms, and only went down one row, I believe, but she's dropped down two. And she always made them in with 10 colours and the 13 stitches. When I was first working it out, I spent a while with a couple of her blankets out trying to figure out what she did, and then when I sorted it out and figured out the border, I got another blanket out and realised she did a different border on that one. So that's why for my version I decided to add my own border. So it's kind of a merge of the two of us. So yeah. They are endless, Jill. That's what I love about crochet. There's just so much variety. Which is probably why I've got so many plans and ideas and so much yarn just in case an idea comes to me. Never know, one day in one of my lives I might show you my stash. It's kind of outgrowing me at the moment. I did put myself on a yarn ban, but that was kind of fruitless. Especially considering I still get subscription boxes every month. I think it's a crazy habit of a soul, Jill. So much pretty yarn to choose from. Probably helps if we were crocheters that only liked one style of stuff. That's all working in. So I do think this one's suitable for any level of crocheter. You can see, I don't know if you can tell on my hook, the colour's wearing out. One of my most used hooks. Oh, indie dyes, honestly, Jill, they do such beautiful yarn. I ventured there first with my Yarn Crush box from Canada. They're so good. Especially because they usually use a really, really good quality yarn too. Some of the silks and... My first try with them, I soon realised why we wind our yarn. I ended up with a huge mess of this beautiful silk that took me over a week to untangle, working on it at least an hour a night trying to get the knots out. I had someone staying with us that was saying, just cut it, just cut it. No. But I got there, perseverance. I now have a lovely poncho from it. So you can see it's only the first repeat that you've got to really focus on the counting. As you can see, I'm not counting at all just know once I get to the drop that I can. Every now and then though I do check in case I've dropped a stitch, but it's easy enough to sneak them back in. I'm not a fan of frogging work either if I can find a way to fudge it. So I'm nearly to the end of the row, and I can it's pretty easy to keep tension as well, even though it looks loose when you're working them. Sometimes they all pull back and even up together. Good. People have to join my group though. I was a bit scared to do it out on my page. Hi Jen. So just, Jen, I'm nearly at the end of my row for Forever EILEEN. So this one's the drop treble, the last one. So it's just a single crochet or double crochet if you're UK terms. Splitting yarn. I'm just in that back loop only. That's okay. I hope your surgery went okay, Jen. Now I'm not going to bore you either with sewing in my ends. But I try, see, look, I've been a good girl and I've kept on top of it. So every time I finish a row, I sew in the one from the row before, just in case I have to, really do have to pull something out. That's in the way though. And last one. And just fasten off. Scissors, and that's it. So, and then as you can see, I've been sewing them in. I keep it within the same colour row when I sew it in, so that it doesn't show up on the back. As you can see, even the back's quite a nice blanket too if you use it the other way around. So yeah, oh, that's good, Jen. It does curl up a bit in that bottom corner, but that all straightens out as well once you get to the border, which I'm a long way from getting to there. The original design, I think I did 199 rows. This one I've made one repeat wider, so I may end up doing an extra few rows to balance that out as well. But yeah, so I'll start another row so you can see that starting, and then unless there's anything anyone wants, I might call it quits. What colour am I wanting? Mauve. Keeping the colours in order is a good thing too, and I have noticed Granny, for a couple of her blankets, she actually seemed to run out of a colour and just snuck in another one. So, yeah. It might be easier to see the back loop on this one. But even picking the colour scheme is probably one of the hard parts too, because you just, it's that first one. Never know if they're going to work out. And even before I started this one, I'd changed the ideas of them so many times that I just went, stop it, and went with what I had. And I'm actually really pleased with the way these ones are coming together. This one is mine, Jill. The last one I gave to my mum, they were more her colours, and I don't think Granny ever made her one, so I felt like I should. She tended to make them for us kids and the great grandkids. So that's why I'm also not in a rush to get it done, because I don't need another blanket. I just want to make it. But I think this is similar colours too to the first one that Granny made me. At least had had blue and orange in it. So yeah, just working into that back loop. Thank you. I am keen to try and do a gradient one as well, so get 10. I'm sure if I did one in purple, my daughter would keep it, since that's her favourite colour. But I'd probably feel tempted just to chuck in one extra colour. Again. Now this time we're going to work into the blue. I'd be tempted to try it in different, like a nice thick yarn as well. At least it might work out bigger and quicker. But anyway. So I think I might just about call it quits. It's just about 1 o'clock for me now. We've got a long weekend here in Perth, so we're actually travelling down to my parents for the weekend. So for future Facebook Lives, I'm happy to, because this is in my help and ideas group, so I'm happy if anyone needs assistance with a pattern or a stitch. I'll set up a request for things first, and I'm happy to give live tutorials for anyone that's stuck, so you don't have to go searching YouTube for the exact one. And you can also ask me questions while I'm doing it, since I am. Thank you, Jen. I will have a lovely weekend. And I wasn't sure if I could keep up with comments as I went, but I think I'm doing okay. So yeah, if anyone wants to join the group, I will be posting these. I'll probably put it on YouTube and on my Facebook page as well. They just don't get it live, but you can at least see how it's made. Get bored by my chatter. Thank you, Jill. And I hope everyone has a lovely weekend too. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to get my wine and finish this row and yeah, put my feet up. All right, thank you for joining me. Have a lovely weekend.